Hello, everyone. We are doing week one of getting to know your numbers. I am inviting Jen Kok. Let me get her on here. You think this is like the second or third? She should be joining us.
Hello. Oh, you froze.
I know.
Wait.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Oh, there you are.
Is my head cut off again? Am I
No,
figuring this out better?
your head's not cut off. You're looking good.
I also have my coffee, Jen. I was saying it's 3 o'clock here on the East Coast. I'm gonna be wired tonight, but at least I'm gonna have a little bit of a clear head for this afternoon slump then, you know?
There you go. I'm one of those people, I can drink caffeine at 6 o'clock at night and still go to bed.
I used to, and now, If anybody has any questions after we talk, I'll be up at midnight tonight, I'm sure. Shoot us a note.
But I should maybe be concerned about the fact that maybe I've overstimulated my system with so much caffeine that
here's the thing.
doesn't impact me anymore.
If you don't have your caffeine, do you miss it? Do you have the headaches and everything? Because then that's what maybe.
Yeah, actually I don't, which is surprising. And I don't drink a ton of it, but yeah, for some reason. I
It
don't
just
know.
doesn't, positive or negative. You're good.
Yeah,
See, no, it
exactly.
swings me wildly both
Yeah.
ways. So I need to, but here I am. Nevertheless,
Here we
here I am.
So.
Welcome. Okay, so we're back week one. We came on here, I think it was last week, to introduce this topic, but this is the first of 4 weeks where we're gonna just jump in here and talk numbers, mindset around numbers, explain some things, 20 minutes maybe each week. So do you let's introduce ourselves first and then maybe talk about the topic. Do you want to go first and just?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm super excited. So Jennifer Koch, and I have been an entrepreneur for 25 plus years. I owned my own brick and mortar bakery for over 20 years, turned it into a franchise, sold it for a profit in 2018. And ever since then, I'm really passionate about helping creative entrepreneurs grow their businesses, but more importantly, survive, because the statistics are not in our favor for small business ownership. So I really work with people that are less than 5 years, less than $1 million. We're getting them to that 5 year mark. I created a really fun 3-step program called Earn More, Stress Less. And we focus on revenue, we focus on profit, because I want you to pay yourself more, which I know, Brooke, you're super passionate about. And what I love about what I do is most of my clients get double-digit growth. So it's working, it's fun, and yeah, that's a little bit about me. So Brooke, give us your little spiel.
You know, we met. Jen and I hit it off for many reasons, but everything you said. So my name is Brooke Koeninger. My business is Scaled with Clarity. I work as a fractional CFO with businesses, solopreneurs and small businesses, helping them scale by getting clear with their numbers. But I had a corporate background, but I grew up with an entrepreneurial family. My parents own their own business. My brothers have their own businesses. And so I saw firsthand just the struggle with here's the thing, being an entrepreneur is so great in so many ways. And your mindset, you're this creative entrepreneur, you're doing things that others don't want to do. So you have this ability to take risks. But what comes with that too is you got to go after it, but be grounded a little bit in the numbers. And I see so many times that what the benefits of being an entrepreneur and what makes you so great can also hurt you on the financial side, because you're taking these risks without understanding kind of what they mean or really thinking about it, because it feels like it's holding you back. And so I love this conversation. I'm super passionate about it because I feel like the more entrepreneurs we have, the more people starting small businesses, the better all of this is. So I'm excited. And then, so this week, so the week specifically for today, we'll talk about is know your goals, track your numbers. And do you want to just touch on that? Like, why are we starting there? Like, what about that really resonates, and why is that the first one?
I think as entrepreneurs, we're all told, okay, you need goals. Let's create our goals. And, we do these 3-year visions. We do these 5-year visions. And I know out of my own personal habits of what I did in the past when I owned a business is those goals sat on a shelf and collected dust. They're great. We need them.
Yeah.
But if we're not doing it in a strategic way where we're putting some measurement behind it, like I just want to grow revenue. Okay, that's great. Well, let's really drill that down. Is that you want to grow $5,000? You want to grow 5%? And then how do we get there? So how do you make decisions? How do you create a roadmap? How do you have clarity if your goals are really ambiguous? So that's one of the first things I see. And then we don't really refer to them as we're making day-to-day decisions. And that piggybacks with know your numbers. They just want to get out there. Oh, you there? Did I lose you? Hopefully we're still here. You're back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All
Guys, I
right.
reached my limit on social media, so it went over. That's the, anyways, go ahead. Sorry, Jen. Sorry.
So the reason know your numbers is so important is as creatives, we just want to get out there and sell our product, produce our product, do our service. We don't like to think about the number piece of it. It sometimes can be really intimidating. It feels a little dry. It doesn't really serve our creative spirit. But I like to, like you do, we like to teach it in a fun way because once you get a handle on it, your numbers are fun. Because
Uh, so many. So I'm gonna piggyback for a second too, because everything you said. For me, I even held myself back from fully jumping in, like on the finance side. I always said, like, I just want to help businesses in general with their strategy and the growth, because to me, and a lot of entrepreneurs I talk about, numbers are like, it's like a handcuff. Like, it's the things you have to do. It's the taxes at the end of the year, but it can also be this real unlock. And that's where I think goals set. So like, if you've ever been to business school or you're starting and you hear like a loan, you need your business plan. It's like you said, a thing that you create and you put it on a shelf, and then that's the end of it. But really, you and I have both seen this so many times. Entrepreneurs start businesses, you end up paying yourself last. You're going into business, your stress is higher. And so really what the goals can be is like, why did you start this business? What excites you about it? Where do you want to go? And then thinking through the implications. And what I mean by that is like, I want to grow top line. It can be ego driven too. Like, I just want to get that big client. I want to hit that revenue number because that's just going to prove to myself that I've made it. But thinking through, why do you want that? Is that because you want to be able to bring more money in? And then thinking, what are the implications? Because I've seen so many entrepreneurs focus on that top line or whatever it may be, but not realizing that means I'm going to have to work more hours and my kids are home for the summer, for instance, or, like that means that I'm going to have to hire more help to support that, which means I'm actually going to make less at the end of the day. So it's really thinking through what are your goals and then moving into exactly like, how do we manage that and making that part of the ongoing process and not just a one-time thing that we put on the shelf,
right.
So that's, it's dreaming and visioning. What do I want this business to be and how do I get there? Yeah.
Well, it helps outline those steps of how to get there. And I think you nailed it with revenue. I call revenue the vanity number. Revenue is great. I mean, sure, it's really fun and it's easy to track. So I would say 100% of us out there are tracking revenue.
Yeah.
But what happens when you trickle down to the bottom line? That's the important thing because the bottom line is what you take home. And I think we all want to take home a little bit more, and it's okay to take home. I mean, there's so much mindset around money and all of that, which we can't get into today. But,
Yeah.
I always say really good women making really good money go on to do great things. So it's okay to make a profit and pay yourself in your business.
I mean, that's why we've all been into it. I mean, it's amazing, and so many people, it's tied to a passion, certainly. But at the end of the day, if you can't pay yourself, it's not sustainable, or you can't pay your employees that you're going to bring on there, the business will close because we've seen the stats of how many small businesses close within the first year or the 3 years. And so so you're not one of those statistics, you need to pay yourself so you can sustain your lifestyle to be able to feed back into the business. So I always love like switching that mindset to like, a lot of times it's like, let me plow back in, but that's not a sustainable business model. So you hit on it. So if we talk about some of the numbers, so we know we want to set goals, and there's a variety of things which, you want to think about when you're setting goals, but let's talk about the numbers, what we want to track, and they're financial and non-financial, honestly. And I'll just preface this. There can be 1,000. It depends on your strategy. It really depends on what those goals are and where you want to go. But I think there's a couple you and I have talked about that are pretty synonymous. They're pretty standard across the board, regardless of the business you're in. You touched on revenue versus profit. So I think that is a really, really important one to start with. A lot of entrepreneurs are looking at the top line. I want to get to the first million. I want to get to my first 100,000. I want to get to the next the 5 million mark, whatever those key marks are. But you got to think of the bottom line and what the profit is, whether you're plowing that back in the business, whether you're paying yourself, but what is that bottom line, the profit across the board?
Right.
Go ahead.
No, it's so true. So, one of the first things when I work with a client is we look at their gross profit margin. And basically what what that tells me is how much are you making for every dollar you sell?
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
after you take out the cost of what it costs to either provide your
Yep.
service or your product.
Yep.
And if it's too low, that tells me that A, you're not priced right.
Yes.
So it might be time for a price increase, or you're spending way too much time producing that product or service. So we need to work on efficiencies. And one thing I'm going to say to all you service-based creatives, so photographers, interior designers, people that it's your time,
Yes.
you have to track your time.
Oh,
I have worked with interior designers when we did this exercise, we got to the bottom of it and she was making like $2 an hour.
I think that's so important. You touched on this, and I'm going to dig into that a little bit too. One, pricing for your time. That's a whole money mindset too. Like, what is my time worth? I'll just give it away. I'm not actually spending some money. So for service-based entrepreneurs, that's a huge thing. But I also, when we think about profit, gross profit especially, when you're looking at across the board, you want to see, what are you bringing in a month? What are you bringing in a year? But you've mentioned this before too. It is looking at your specific service lines or your specific products and saying, what is costing me the most money? I may be selling 4x of this product versus this other one, or this service may be what everyone's asking. But if I'm spending more time than the other ones on that, or I'm spending more money, it might not be worth it because you're actually losing money. You have much lower margin. So I think that's one of the main, like what you look at with your clients too, is you're looking at the top line growth.
We are, here's an example. I was working with a landscaper and in his profit and loss statement, he had just one lump number revenue. And it was a nice number.
Yeah.
His business was, solid. And he offers like 12 different services, everything from mowing to spring cleanup to, gutter cleanup to power washing, you name it. And he also has a place where you can come and pick up your seasonal bark and all that. But he has no idea what of those services are driving the cart.
Yeah.
And, is that yard service where people can come get their own mulch even making any money because you have to pay somebody to man it?
Yeah.
So that you see that a lot. And how do you make decisions going forward? How do you make marketing decisions? How do you make, decisions on growth if you're not sure what's driving your numbers? So that to me is the first thing.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of product-based businesses have way too many products.
Yeah.
And I had one client, she made her own soaps. We slashed like 30 some products. And what happened? Her profit went up because she was spending so much time and energy on these things that were only just trickling a few dollars in.
And I think when you first start out, you are trying to figure out what the market wants, what's the pricing. There is a period of probably proliferation of SKUs or services because you're also scrappy and you're meeting people where they are and what do they need. But there does get a point where you've proven a market need and you've really got to look at the breakdown between the services or your products, depending what business, again, like you said. And now there's switching costs. Now there is I used the word already, but proliferation of costs to support all of these. You're looking at marketing and advertising dollars for all of this. So when you really look at the fully loaded, and also if you're a service-based, the mental load to support and figure out how to do no standardized process, right? It's all different. I mean, you and I, that's what we're in. That's my biggest thing is like, it's not standardized right now. So you're meeting everyone where they need, and you don't realize how much that affects your bottom line because you really can't lean into it and grow a lifestyle aligned business that's not going to stress you out at the end of the day. So
exactly. And it can be really overwhelming, to sit here and go, okay, what do I need to track? Because you could track 100 different things. So what I would say is think about your business, think about the industry you're in, and what information are you lacking that's helping you make better decisions? When I owned a brick and mortar bakery, we used to track average ticket sale. And I used to use that as a motivating tool with my employees to get them to upsell. So I needed that number to talk about it and then we could measure it. So, don't like take this information and stress out and go, oh gosh, I'm not tracking anything. Start somewhere. Start small. Track 3 things if that's what it is today. But start somewhere so that you can start to ask questions if you're not sure of what your gross profit margin should be, for instance, or how much you should be spending on staffing. And then just keep an eye on it and kind of see what direction it's heading.
I always like to say too, when we're thinking about the revenue side, is break down the customer, your customers, what's the word I'm looking for? Like their process through whatever you order, whether you have brick and mortar store. So it would be people literally have to hear about you. They have to walk into your store or go online, whatever it is, they have to purchase. And at each one of those points, you want to break down like what is the convert, like there is a metric that you could track to see what is leading to that. And so you talked about this too, like average price, but you could also do this with service, like people are interested, you're having an initial call, you're sending a proposal, but those are the things too, the non-financial, but that really lets you know like what is working, what is not working, besides then breaking down, is it worth it for me to then even deliver this because of the cost? So I think there's a lot leading up to that, can give you like important things.
There is. And, I would say too, one of the first things to start with is reevaluate your pricing. I mean, I see that a lot, that a lot of people are underpriced, and especially right now, because we've had so many increases that have probably snuck up on a lot of business owners and they don't even realize it. Your subscriptions that you're getting, your vendors, if you have vendors, when was the last time you looked at your vendors and ran through what you're paying today, which with, against what you paid last year? So make sure that you do that. I used to do this once a year. It was just a once a year habit of going through my pricing, going through my vendors, going through, staffing, all those things, and making sure that your pricing is where it needs to be.
Okay, so I think next week, I'm actually looking at our schedule, we're actually digging into pricing for profit. So I think there's going to be a lot there. If you guys are interested in that, we're going to dig more into kind of the process to go around it, how you think about it, how you assess the market. But I do want to, while we have time to, I think another metric, cash flow. I know that's a financial thing, but here's the thing. Like when I talk to them, they are looking at it probably daily. You're looking at your bank account, you're figuring out what you have, but not just knowing what your current balances are, but really figuring out what do you have coming in, what do you have needing to go out over the next, we say 13-week cash flow. But if you can get in the process of looking forward looking and knowing every week my burn rate is X, $10,000, $20,000. That is in who I work with, that's the biggest stress. I mean, when you're a small business, it is cash all the way. So it is like, if we can get a forward looking, so you're not as reactive in that too. That's one of the things, I don't know, are you seeing the same thing on your side?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or when you were in business
I've looked at so many P&Ls that have a positive net profit at the bottom, but there's no money in the bank.
No, zero.
They scratch
you're plowing
their
back
heads
from your
and
own savings.
yeah. So yeah. No, absolutely.
Can I make
so good stuff?
Cash flow, or can I make a payroll? Yeah. Anything else? Any specific metrics or anything in yours that you like?
No, I think it just depends on if you're service-based or brick and mortar. If you're brick and mortar and have a storefront, you should be looking at what's your sales per square foot, because that's going to tell you if you need a bigger space or smaller space. Are you paying too much rent? Things like that. Sales per hour, because that's going to help you make decisions about when you should be open, when you should not be open. Service-based, we touched on a lot of them. Your time is the biggest one for service-based. Don't forget about all the subscriptions and things that you're using, because that is impacting your pricing and, going into your cost of doing business. And I think that the key is choose something. Choose 5 things, if you will, or 2 things, whatever you can handle. And if you can't stand dealing with numbers, reach out to somebody who loves it and ask them to come in and help you. And start just a simple spreadsheet. We don't have to overcomplicate it. And just start today. Just look at, okay, what did February? This is what I did in February. So that way you can start to kind of think about where you want to go, like to your point, Brooke, about goals.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get to a certain revenue this year, how are we going to get there? Yeah. And then how much money is going to be left over at the end?
I think so that leads us into a good thing. We're going to, like the process. So again, you've mentioned this. This is going to feel overwhelming. You're not doing it. You're in reactive mode. You have 1,000,001 things already on your plate. And you're like, now, April, I just got through, I'm trying to pull all my taxes together, whatever it may be, year end. When you were in business or when you're working with others, what's the process? And I can talk through some of the stuff. What makes it easy, and what's the cadence that you would recommend if you're just starting out and trying to get more proactive in some of this tracking?
The first thing I think is you need to, I always recommend once a month, set aside a half hour, an hour, because once you get behind, that's when it's really tough. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you ever did the Creative Memories scrapbooking thing for your kids. Okay, well, I got into that when, I don't know, my oldest was 13. And I wanted to keep avoiding it because I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go 13 years back through photos. Heck
That's
no,
exactly
this is gonna
my
be
first
nightmare.
one. I have it. My youngest, there's nothing because I have to.
Well, the same with your You know, if you're going to just keep avoiding it, going backwards is just going to be the pit. So start fresh today. Just start, you know, take February. Like here we are mid-March. By now, hopefully you're getting your reports. And I would say too, if you're using a bookkeeper or using someone that's doing that, and if they're not getting them to you on a timely basis, it's time to shop around and have a conversation because you need this stuff on a regular basis in order to make decisions.
I'm just going to piggyback on that because that's such a good point. So one is it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go buy these systems to track all this stuff. You can really just start writing it down and noting it. And I will say it starts with knowing what's important to you. Are you looking to, you know, grow your top line? Are you looking to get more time back in your day? Are you looking to bring more money back? So let's start from there and figure out what are the things we need to see if we're succeeding towards that goal. But then to your point, monthly, start monthly at least, and just kind of carve out some time. And again, this can be, if we can flip it in our head to say, like, look how much closer I'm getting to my goals. Look at the progress I'm making. Okay, now where do I want to focus for the next year? It becomes this proactive thing. And I will say, this is nothing against, you know, bookkeepers or finance people, but it has been more of a check the box. And so if you have a relationship with whoever you're working with that is more just delivering at year end, there's so many bookkeepers out there that can send you monthly. So you can at least look at it monthly, or you can pull, if you are in a system like QuickBooks, you can pull it monthly and say, okay, where am I right now, at least from the financial metrics? And then I want to add on to that too, because certainly that, like, just start small. Now, if you were in a seasonal business that we're coming up into the summer and you're about to be, this is your, you know, you're mowing lawns or whatever, or you're selling, you know, you come to the holidays or whatever, that's when we want to start looking at like more frequently, but like give yourself some leeway to work up to that, because that's when it becomes more pivotal, more than a month. But like start small and just start with like once a month and set aside time.
It is. And you know what else happens when you track stuff like this is you start to see the wins.
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning you talked about the rewards of being an entrepreneur. I don't know I don't know why we're wired to be entrepreneurs or what it is, but you know, there's just something unique about us birds, right? And we're out there doing this thing, and it can sometimes feel daunting. We can sometimes focus too much on the valleys, and it's because we don't have a team, we don't have a boss telling us good job. So how do you find your good jobs? Well, look at your track. You know, if you start to track your numbers, you can start to see some progress, you can start to see some wins, and then you start to feel good, and then you get some confidence, and then you get out there and you get more business. So it's like kind of the start to all of that. It's so important for business owners to really start here.
It's such a mindset, right? I mean, this is not minimizing the 1,001 things, but it can be such a good thing when you're starting to finally see the progress and you're exactly like you said, the wins, because nobody's giving you the good, very, very limited, but if you can figure out how to give it to yourself and know that you're working whatever that goal is, like, I love that.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. I'm looking forward to next week, Brooke. That'll be fun talking about how to price.
Yeah. So anything that I know you have a freebie that could help some people. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? And then we'll let everyone know when we're going to be back on next week.
Yeah. I created a freebie that really takes you through the 3 steps that I do with my clients. And this is a case study. And if it's, you know, you can just see the 3 steps that we look at. And one of them is know your numbers. And this will be a guide for you to kind of help you get going. You can implement your own business. I'll put the link in the comments below this thread.
Good idea. Okay, so then that's perfect. So put that in there. And then I have a pricing for profitability. So especially if you're a product based and you're looking at the breakdown by product, like we talked about, go to my website. I have that. And then coming in 2 weeks, I'm actually having a DIY toolkit. So like if you're not ready for a bookkeeper and you just need to get started somewhere, stay tuned. That's coming April 1st. So, so next week we'll be back Thursday, 3 Eastern again, and we're going to really dig into pricing for profit.
And also, if anyone has any topics when it comes around your money and your business, you know, just send either Brooke a DM or me a DM, and we'll make sure we touch on them, because this is a really important topic, and we want everyone to be super profitable in 2025.
I know, and I love this, Jen, and I love chatting with you, so I love that too. Yeah, if you guys have questions, send them our way, and we can also cover them next week when we go live again at 3.
Awesome.
Thank you. This was fun. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you that joined, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.